Are you saying that those who make the mix of the younger political leader in this country is not prepared for the hardline positions that we're seeking?
I think, first of all, the generation we have now, let me talk about the millennials proper. This is the most educated generational cohort ever since Kenya was created. They are the most schooled, most exposed. We are talking about in excess of 89% of them. At least when if our ancestors were ever to wake up today, they would be amazed, because this is what they desired to have. This is what they dreamt to have. But as to where we are going as a country, are we prepared as a generation?
That's my question.
What is preparation?
When you talk about preparation, we're talking about being able to meet opportunity, or rather being able to ride a tide at its highest peak. The millennials, again, allow me to quote somebody that ordinarily shouldn't be quoted. He said that we are the generation, the 1, 2, 3, 4 generation. One wife, 2 children, a 3-bedroom, a 4-wheel drive car generation. Millennials are typically...
Why should he not be quoted, if I may ask?
I will not even name the name.
And that's why I asked, why should he not be quoted?
Ordinarily, because he might not pass off as a good example. But he said that this generation that we have is the 1, 2, 3, 4 generation.
Right.
Millennials are relatively mean if you are to compare them, selfish if you are to compare them with Generation Z. Everybody's about my degree, my wife, my children, my money. That's why even amongst them, they don't have so many friends.
Harold, who is Z?
The Generation Z. Yes. The Generation Z is this cohort that was born from 1997 to 2013. The Generation Z as now. A majority of them are still within the learning institution. They are not yet, not so many of them, about 5 million of them, 5-6 million, are now within the bracket we will call the 18 and above. Okay. But the bulk of it is still in school and in college.
Okay,
so if you were to compare...
Z.
Yes.
So where would I fall in?
I don't want to say you fall amongst the ancient of days.
Oh, no, my dear friend. If we are speaking facts.
Yeah.
And yours is not categorized.
Not even prehistoric.
Yeah, yours is.
Okay, so Arnold, I guess the question is still hanging and beckoning an answer.
I want to actually go to the answer.
What then constitutes preparation for what we're talking about in terms of leadership?
Number one, there has been a lie that political succession in Africa does not exist, and that mentorship in Africa does not exist. Eric, if you are to look at your ancestors, you will realize that when they went to war, they took grey-haired men, grey foxes, and those were the people they put at the battlefront. People who had lived sufficiently so that the young men would actually be on the second and third tier. There was a reason why they did that.
Not dispensable.
Not dispensable. These were people who would hold ground much longer, and even if we lost them, at least they would pass on the skills to the others.
Not dispensable.
I don't want to use that term. That term
is
not really that they had lived. They were the most experienced people, and they fought well.
Right.
Okay.
But then, so that the young would watch them and learn, so that when their day comes to hold fort in the front, they will do it quite well.
Okay.
So in Africa, succession has always been there. Our ancestors and our forefathers always did that. So, number one, can we talk about proper mentorship? There are a lot of leadership courses around. There are a lot of fellowships going around, but you still realize that we struggle to get a good leader. So a good leader is not necessarily a product of people who are prepared, who are educated and everything else. It's also a product of society. So the majority, and we talk about democracy being like milk, that the top of the best substance in milk is normally the cream. It goes to the top. Mm-hmm. So however much we really are looking at a better country, we also, as a community, as a society, might not be ready for a better country, because we will only give out what we are made of. So education is one thing. It's actually a prerequisite for leadership. But then leadership is much more than education.
What is it?
Leadership calls for much.
You're still not answering the question.
I'm trying to go
what
around
constitutes
it.
preparation?
I do not want to be
You've mentioned some
accused
words here
of bashing my own generation.
No. You bash your whoever generation.
It's okay. If it's needed, it's needed.
Why must it be bashing? If it's truth-telling, so be it.
Truth-telling today
Arnold,
is
you've mentioned
bashing.
mentorship.
Yes.
Is a part of the ingredients for preparation?
Yes.
Mentorship. What else?
So there's education, which actually is a glut.
What is education?
Formal education?
Formal education, that is.
Okay.
Let no one actually tell you that education is not important. It's very, very important when it comes to...
Going to school.
Going to school is important when it comes to leadership.
Okay.
Because you are not going to actually make sense of billions, even millions,
Sawa.
as a member of parliament.
Get it. Second, mentorship.
Second, mentorship. Three is the issue that is a little bit fluid on ethics. Because ethics are derived of mores, or you want to call them morals and whatever, from what the society is. Now, of all that, of the so many ingredients that make leadership, the part of leadership, and then there is the management part of it, being just one line, that on the left you can put leadership and on the right you put management. You find that then we start to struggle because somehow we never deliberately went out to prepare leaders. People are coming into leadership for self-actualization. Yet leadership should, in and of itself, be something that we work on. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, for example, you can actually tell a prime minister at 17, they will already be in a youth league of a party. They actually go to school while they are already within a political party. Today, you make a little bit of money, and now we have got the problem of what I call the synchronization of our politics. You go out there, make a little bit of money, and then show up in the political scene, dazzle the people, and you get elected. So then you find us sloganeering and running around the politics of thinking. I have looked at old documents, like, for example, the KPU manifesto. It is so deep that sometimes when I see the debate we have on TV and radio, it's so shallow. And I'm talking about 1960s, where Jaramogi, whom you would look at, he was at that particular point. Today, he will be looked down upon because he was a diploma fellow, right? He went to Makerere, I think, did a diploma in education. But if you look at...
That is what was available then.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. If you look at the KPU manifesto then, if you look at the KANU documents at that particular point, and then you compare, I've looked at Mwai Kibaki at 29, talking on all black and white footage. I've looked at Tumboya, who would be considered as a Form 2 dropout. All of you talk about the sessional paper number 10, right?
Yes.
We talk about it a lot.
That's the famous one.
The very famous one.
There were other sessional papers, yes.
You look at it and you realize that a lot of times the people who we have properly schooled are not really, have not taken time to go and do proper in-depth, or rather they're not deep. They're not even skin deep when it comes to leadership.
So going to school is not...
It's just part of it. It's not sufficient.
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
We'll continue this conversation shortly. 7:30. Arnold Maliba is a strategic communication advisor at the United Democratic Alliance. This is UDA. And we are here to talk about generational change in leadership, succession politics in this country. Okay. So we've got very many leaders who are in the old age. We know the independence leaders have exited the stage. The second liberation leaders are the ones who are currently in there, but they'll soon be exiting. So who's that? Who's coming after them? And that's a conversation we're having. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
My skin, tint and beauty even glow. For your shade of beautiful.
Marisa, right? Do you really like me? You know I'm from a political family, right? I have to have a woman worthy of my stature, like Elise, and find someone on your level.
You already have everything you could possibly want. You even treat other people like they're your property.
I am not interested in him.
You lied to me. Elise, no!
Marisa!
Elise, you killed Victor.
Dad, I didn't mean to do it. I was just defending myself.
There's no need for Elise to go to the precinct, sir. I was the one who killed Victor Montelibano.
Your daughter already confessed.
Take you away from me, my dear.
Why did you allow Marisa to take the fall for me?
I will give her 10 million.
But Dad, it's Marisa.
Please don't abandon my Marissa.
Tendereza.
Nimeokoka na furaha, na dhambi zangu zimetoka, nataka kumtumikia.
season of The Art of Living is here. You will not believe whom we have in store for you this season.
I usually buy during a sale, but I'm also a very hard negotiator.
Their homes are nothing short of magnificent, exquisite, and unique.
I think it just brings out that girlish era that I am in.
This season, the bar is raised.
Once I started Floral, it just seemed to be themed all over.
Take a vicarious journey with me and let's discover, explore, and engage.
Bypass, very busy, coming in towards the AP Training College Junction. Keeping an eye on things as we get into traffic hour. A busy Monday morning is what it is. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Communication advisor at UDA party. We're talking about generational succession in leadership. Arnold, if you look at the leaders from independence and then the leaders who took over with, in the 90s, the second liberation sort of leaders, right? The ones that we have currently.
The younger group of those leaders of that time.
Yes. If you look at them, was there mentorship and hand-holding and then a passing of the baton from the independence guys, the Mois and the others and the Kibakis to this other leaders?
I think there was quite a good practice right before independence, coming to the independence, and all the way to 2000s when our politics a little bit got murkier. And then, because you can literally tell who was whose student. Ideologically, you can actually follow through and trace. You see what Jaramogi could do. He is called the doyen of opposition politics because you can actually tell whom he brought up. He has got a lot of political children, quote unquote. Some of them now already passed on and followed him up. But you would see he had his own respect. There are people he brought up.
Like?
Quite a number of people. Then there is what Moi did. Moi was a serious mentor. He brought up so many people. Whether you liked Moi or not, he actually had a streak of people. And the government was so regimented in a way that you will tell the next crop of leadership. Then now, the hand-holding business at some point becomes a little bit murkier when we bring in the politics of money. And this new competition where you are in a party and everybody is competing against everybody. You are in a set. Today, I think for my generation, I will still speak for the millennials and say that at least for those of us who've been in leadership, a few of us, and I can actually point out to many guys who've done marvelous work, that in the spaces you are, like for example, I have spent most of my adult life working for and with young people. That's why ordinarily sometimes I struggle to actually define myself any other way other than a youth worker. I've been in that particular space for the longest time. Worked in a political party as a youth league chairperson, worked at the National Youth Council, was Kenya's youth rep to the UN. I have been in the youth space through and through. At some point in 2017, a friend of mine asked me, what is your regret? And I told her that when I came to the youth space, I didn't find as many people who could understand what the youth space was more than me. And I doubt I've done enough. And she told me, if I give you a chance, will you work around? That is a lady called Karen Wakoli. She runs an organization called Emerging Leaders Foundation. And within that particular short time that I worked with her, I was able to actually bring in as many young people as I knew and taught them hands-on how to understand the youth sector, how the youth policy. A lot of these kids now going around talking about youth policy experts and everything else, most of them have actually come from my mentorship classes. And that is one of the most satisfying things I've done in life so far. Unfortunately, when I came to that particular space, I was a journalist before I got into that space. I had no one to hold my hand. I went in, did a little bit of stupid things, and Everybody has got a few things they could regret. I organized a demonstration that went up to State House. I doubt anyone has done that before. I went to the High Court, brought down the gates. So some person who didn't know me reached out to Facebook and told me, I have seen the things you're doing. I have followed news a little bit. I even went and got hold of a minister. She knows herself. She's a governor today. It wasn't nice those days. When I was still young and getting in, just with raw energy and passion. So somebody reached out to me on Facebook, lest we condemn them wholesome. And he told me, if you continue this way, these people will kill you. I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
That person was called Cyprian Nyamwamu. Cyprian Nyamwamu didn't know me. He saw what I was doing. He watched the news. He saw an interview I was doing, I think, with Mwakazi and Mutegi then. And he said, I have watched news in the last 3 months. You keep on featuring, and I don't like the way you are doing things. You can't go to the High Court, bring down the gates and everything else. I think, again, we are the only people who ever did that. You can't take people to State House. You cannot get hold of a minister and lock them in until there's breaking news. You can check online. Waziri atekwa nyara na vijana. I mean, you need to know how to balance energy, this strength you have, these strategic plans, and how you also make. Because I'll give you an example. One day we were able to get hold of a minister, I'll not name, because we had issues with the Youth Fund, we had issues with the National Youth Council. But when they gave us an opportunity to talk in the boardroom, do you know that we didn't say anything?
You had nothing.
We argued and argued amongst ourselves until we were told. And to organize to a level where you can capture a minister without a shot being fired and bringing in 500 people to a third floor is quite a little bit of thinking. But when we got there, we realized that there was a set of skills we didn't have.
What happened?
Because when we got there, we didn't have even a spokesperson. We were so good at organizing kinetics to march, to capture the place. But we didn't even prepare who would speak for us, how we would extract commitments. I tell you, even if anyone amongst us had lost their lives during that particular march, it would have been to nothing, because when we sat down, we were not able to extract commitment from government that had to say, okay, now you've come this far, now can we talk?
So you lacked a mentor.
We lacked a mentor at that particular point. So we made mistakes, but a few other people would come in belatedly. Some of us tried to correct that by ensuring that a lot of people, and that's why, like, for example, I'm so happy today that almost 30 to 40% of young people you see on TV talking today are ones I actually negotiated for. Niliombea show. I think this one can actually talk well. I think this one can work out. So that challenge, we have got a challenge that when it comes to handover, we have got this thing where cities people talk about leadership is not given.
CT's people being people of his age, or CT's people being people of his...
He will defend himself.
Can you classify what you mean by this?
People?
Because if you're speaking about age, then I'm going to ask a question even before you make your point.
It's not age.
It is what?
It is, there is a saying in cities community that says that leadership, I can't speak it very fluently, but it says something to the effect that leadership is not given, leadership is taken.
It's taken. Okay.
So this high noon type of engaging in leadership is wrong. When we know that leadership is a high calling, we cannot subject it to intrigue and drama, that tomorrow when you have got the mechanics, that all of us have to look at Julius Caesar as the best politician that ever there was. Because literally everything that Julius Caesar did is what politicians are doing today. That he knew how to employ violence, he knew how to employ a little bit of negotiation, he knew how to bring in intrigue, and that there is no deliberate leadership that grows to the next generation and hands it over.
Okay, yeah. Arnold, I think what we are dealing with in this situation is that you have a whole bunch of people. Expertise is not a question. Talent is not a question. Skill is not a question in terms of what they're able to do. I do believe that there's a cabal of leadership today that is not going to release those reins. It doesn't matter how good you are. And I do agree that unless you take it, many a politician have sat in this room and told us, well, you know, I am a senator today, or I am a member of parliament today, and I strive for a higher ground, but I went to my party leader telling them that I wanted to do 1, 2, 3. And they actually told me, no, that's not a good idea. How about you start here first? I believe that the very few people who sit at top leadership today are actually selfishly holding on to the reins because they know, number one, that the younger leadership has something to offer. I think that those who do have the skill, who have the mentorship, who have the education, who have all of that in the bag, would pose a particular threat to the positions they sit in today. And because they hold that power, they stop, whether however you want to look at it, whether economically, with money, whatever, they stop this younger generation from coming in, the people with maybe a larger breadth of ideas from coming in, because that position is sweet, Arnold. You can't run away from it. But if we are going to actually see a new crop of leadership come in, a new crop of ideas, new talents, new skills being applied at that level, this cream that you talk about that's currently occupying that position has to move. That's in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
You want a brutal and honest conversation about this?
Well,
I don't know whether we are ready to have that particular conversation.
I was hoping we would have started that when we started the conversation.
I actually want to ask Arnold the question. Arnold, which show are you in this morning? This show that you're in, what is it called again?
This man does not have anything brutal or honest.
No, I actually want to actually say...
When someone threatens you, you want me to be brutally honest. They have nothing.
I know, he's trying to incite me to actually say...
Okay, so what's the brutal honest thing?
This is the truth. This is the truth. If you were to look at the West, and you look, for example, at the Labour Party, you can tell the next generation of leaders. You don't struggle. When we have got leaders...
How do you tell?
As in, when you go to the Labour Party, you can actually see how regimented it is. That the next bullet in the chamber, once this one is dispensed, this is how this one is going. Forget the mechanics that bring in the next person. But you should not struggle to tell the next layer of leadership. So let's start here. And I'm sorry, I'll begin from the opposition side. If you are to look at Raila Odinga and his people, it is said that he has mentored so many people. But let's talk about that backward politics of regional leadership.
Okay.
If Raila Odinga were to exit the political scene today, who in Nyanza takes over him? They would join us, we people from the Far East. Far West, I mean. When I talk about the Far West, in Western, everybody thinks that they are leaders. Of course, that is democracy, and it's a good thing, but it's not fair that a community should not have a critical mass of young people that can actually stand watch when called upon for leadership. It's not fair.
You're saying it as though it's a bad thing.
Which one?
Where everybody thinks they're a leader.
Democratically that will be good, but then when everybody is a leader, then nobody is a leader. That's the truth.
You see, that is one side of the
coin.
Now,
that's one side of the coin. I wanted to talk about it this way. But when you come on this other side, let's be fair to William Ruto, that when he came to power, one thing happened. Look at Rift Valley, where he comes from. You can actually, God forbid that something happens and there is a sunset to him. You can see there is a Murkomen, there is a Cherargei somewhere, there is a Sang somewhere. Can that be said of in Nyanza, for example, city?
Did he select those people to come into...
deliberately.
No.
Deliberately.
Arnold,
yes.
Did these individuals decide that they wanted to take up positions, or did we see a leader at a particular position who is grooming these individuals and saying, you come and let's prepare you to take over the next seat?
Did those individuals decide? Everybody is desirous. You're going to meet a lot of young people with ambition, but they have no hand-holding. He used the word hand-holding. So it's one thing to desire. I'll give you somebody.
No. Don't give me another one. Just answer that question, Arnold. Did we see a position, or did we see a situation where the person at the top has told these individuals that you've mentioned today, let me keep grooming you? Or did he find them along the way? Let me keep grooming you, keep coming, let's keep working, let's get to this place where you at some point will eventually take over from me. Did we?
Yes, I would. Let me speak about what I know. Number one, I'm looking at what has happened in Rift Valley, for example, in the last 10 years. We have seen a deliberate move to ensure that young people feel important spaces. You can see that. You cannot compare the type of leadership, for example, in Rift Valley and a part of central Kenya with the rest of the country. In other places, I will tell you, you can actually see young people in their 40s still consider themselves children, because the people who make decisions there, and I'm talking about even on basic political decisions. So it's two-way. There is the reaching out, and there's also the teachability of our generation. We also have got a little bit of a problem sitting down under somebody. And from experience, as a person who's taught government before and also working in political spaces, I'll tell you this. Statecraft is a little bit difficult. It's much more difficult than just winning an election. That is why it is easy for people to win elections, alafu wanakuwa bubu wakishashinda kura. They were so eloquent when they were campaigning, but immediately they become members of parliament, they don't know what to do.
Remember your job.
No, I will not mention names. Here we are talking about a generational. We are talking about a generational handover. So a generational handover here being that it's two-way. That there is little hand-holding in some spaces in this country. There are others that are very, very, very deliberate. Some of us have been lucky either by force.
Do we have that in Kenya?
Yes, we do.
Do we have, from the current crop of national leaders, do you have any that you can say that these are so deliberate on mentoring those below them and wanting them to succeed them, not to use them?
Thank you.
Because now I'm at a certain level where I cannot be the one who's running on the streets. So I need somebody who can run on the streets. I'm at a certain level where I cannot be the one who's going and insulting people left, right, and center. I need somebody who will be that kind of mouthpiece. I need a couple of dogs. Do we have that deliberate generational mentorship that will lead to clear succession, that you guys you will take over the leadership of this country?
And it is clear.
And it is clear you'll take over the leadership. Now for what you need to do is think this way, do this way, move in this direction. When you're making that mistake, go and make the mistake calm.
I'll
give you an example.
Even if it's structured by a pastor, where somebody knows, you know what, I'm like an uncle. An uncle knows what you're doing with your nephews and nieces. When you're with your nephews as an uncle, you know you're teaching them to become adults because you have a responsibility. You're not using them to go out there and sell mitumba or sell njugu karanga and bring you the money.
I'll give you an example. If you look at the crop of about 52 principal secretaries, they are largely youthful.
Okay.
If you remember the first list that came out, the shortlisting, it had the seasoned public service type bureaucrats who had been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
I do not want to say that I had that I was told, but I know that the president was confronted and was told that a lot of these young people that you'd love to become principal secretaries are quote unquote rookies. They do not understand, and the president said, teach those young people how to run government. If you cannot teach them, then I will teach them myself. First of all, that is faith in young people, younger people.
Is it?
Because, yes, it is deliberate. Because if we are only going to talk about, there is also ageism when it comes to leadership. And in this country, it's a big thing. People don't see it, but you will realize that you have got a meeting, even a NEC meeting, and then the older ones, probably because they're the leaders, they then retreat the meeting after the meeting or the meeting before the meeting. Here, we have got a president who said, go and teach those young. Do not tell me that you have got these bureaucrats who understand government. Teach these young people, because tomorrow they are the people who will actually be required to run government. That is a deliberate decision.
I want to pause you there.
Can I finish the second one? Because I know we are about to get to
Yes, that's why I'm pausing you.
Yeah.
Because the government system that we have in this country did exactly that. It didn't need the president to utter it. That's why we have even a government school. You rose up the ranks and you were taught. You didn't wake up one day and you became a principal secretary. You never did. You went through the ranks. So even in government, you could tell this person has reached the level of director. He'll get to this position. You could tell. And that's why government was consistent in the way it did things.
Which shoots everything that you're saying, Arnold.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying.
When you say
they are individuals. I'll give you, like today, the country's chief economist, a gentleman called Gakuo. When we were elected, let me give you again, telling stories is important. When we were elected to the National Youth Council, we went there, all of us under 35, a lot of us had never been in government, so we didn't understand. We thought that we will come with the activist mentality, where if you want something, it's done now. We knew nothing about government then. This gentleman told us, he was the director youth then, told us, there's a way government. I want to teach you as young people to understand. This is how you do a board paper. This is how you engage a CS. This is how you go and talk to the president. But before that, when we came in, We literally, that was the youngest board.
Were you working in government then?
We had been elected to government then. At that particular time, I had come from the private sector.
Okay.
Youth council.
You see, let me take my argument further in two statements.
Yeah.
Everything you are saying was being taught to people who were not working in government but were being brought in.
Yes.
Anybody who worked in government will know there are exams you sit in government, you move on. It is structured, it is clear. Everything you're saying, the government
So that you could
those-
tell. You see those things they're telling us about the UK?
But politically,
Yes.
You could tell the next crop of principal secretaries.
You could.
Today, you cannot tell the next crop of principal secretaries. Why?
have
Because
no
the guy
idea.
will wake up tomorrow and decide, done with these young people.
Actually-
what you forget, City, look at this. What you forget is that at some point, the job of a principal secretary became a reserve of the retiring people in the public service.
Actually, that story is incomplete. The reason why that happened, if you remember, there was a golden handshake that took place. And that cadre of people who are in their 40s, many of them took that handshake. There was a gap.
They exited government,
Yes.
public service.
So these older people who should have retired, yes, should have retired, but there was no one to take over. You should know this.
Be that as it is, we're talking about a generational handover.
Yes.
The point is this, that when you go around, you realize that there are parties. Like, for example, in UDA, we have got a youth league. Most of
All
UDA,
parties
allow
have
me,
that
no, let's talk
nonsensical-
about that.
I'm
No,
using the word nonsense
a
too
youth
much
league.
today.
Eric,
I'm in a
listen.
bad mood.
Eric, let me tell you this.
Tell me.
Who is the youth league chairperson of ODM? How old is they?
Who knows, man?
There, you know.
Frank,
Search
who
out.
cares?
How old are they?
Who knows?
How old
all
are they?
these, all these parties have youth wings. Even
I
Kanu
know.
had a youth wing.
I know. Kanu had a proper youth wing. Anyway,
Yes.
we are talking about succession here.
When you're an only party in the
When?
country, you can have...
So
you
now
want
you,
problem.
I was talking about...
Who is it? Who's the UDA?
I want you to find out and how old they
Who's
are.
who's
Even
the-
the Constitution Article 55
You know,
does not define them.
Who's the UDA youth?
No,
you have?
let's get moving. I want
Does
to talk
UDA have
about
a youth?
UDA. Let's talk about UDA.
Does UDA have a youth blah, blah, blah?
We have got
Succession.
a youth league. We have got literally from the SG to most of the ED, SG, and everybody. All of them are young.
Is there succession?
Actually, the oldest person
Is
in
there
our
succession-
party
is there a succession
is the director
plan?
communication. When you talk about oldest,
Is there a
And-
succession plan?
Is there a succession plan in
complete.
Who is the next person that it is clear to everybody that we know in the hierarchy of things as we go on in the years, who is the next person then that has been groomed, that has been handheld?
fuel-
If you have a plan,
that
then
question
you must know
is very
names.
tricky.
I know.
Because-
It isn't tricky. I know the
Yes.
fuel on which
Come on.
political parties in this country run is uncertainty. You cannot say that a political move to employ younger people is so that you have a succession plan. Nope.
This is
That is, in my mind, you want to have sycophants. People who
let's
can't-
get real.
People
Let's
who
get
can
real.
bring you to
You
work.
want
That is-
dogs
that is
to bark
ageism.
on your behalf.
That is ageism because they think young people cannot have a head of their own. They can only be sycophants.
So what's the
we
plan
also
or no?
know serious sycophants who
You
are
just
old.
told us youth without mentorship, youth without
And I'm telling
coaching, youth without all that is empty
and I
rhetoric.
wanted to
You
qualify
told
a
us
point.
this by yourself,
Eric,
Bwana.
can I qualify
You
my
gave
point?
us your own example.
Can I qualify my point? This is it. You have got youth leagues that are bouncing castles. On Sundays, when parents, let's get real.
Yeah.
On Sundays, when adults are talking serious business, there's always a bouncing castle somewhere in entertainment just to keep children busy.
Yeah.
So in this country, if you look at a lot of youth leagues, you realize that they are bouncing castles to keep the youth busy.
Yes,
So you will deny young people places where they can make decisions.
we agree.
Would that be said of UDA? No.
Yes.
The whole party is run by young people. The
So
whole
who is
party.
the next person
in fact,
in place?
it's not just the next person.
So the bouncing
it's a
castle
whole
is from
lot of
Sunday to
people.
Sunday in UDA.
No, for UDA, there is no bouncing castle. The party is run by young people. And you can tell,
Party is a
look at our
bouncing
president. Is run. We are not talking about places where there are no budget. You know, all youth leagues have no budget. Has a party a budget? Yes, it has a budget. Has a party decision-making power? Yes, it does. So that's I'm saying this. That in places where young people and women league are always a flowering process, we have got one where people actually make decisions.
Do they now?
They have the resources, they make decisions. And it's not like we come up with the decisions and say, okay,
Who
where
is
are
the
they?
chair of the youth league, youth forum, youth in UDA?
We have got quite a number of young people. You are running away. I know where the question is supposed to go when we talk about who is the next person. I am running away from that question because of a simple reason.
Succession is clear. if there's no chair, if there are very
Succession
many people, you
cannot
just
be
go back
clear.
into Western
We must
Kenya where
have
you told
a
us there are many
critical
leaders.
mass of
There are
young
many
people
leaders in Western
where you
Kenya.
can
What
pick
did you
from.
say that means?
And now, can we
many
talk about-
leaders in, no, we can't. Many leaders in Western Kenya, you
We
told us
can talk
means
about
no
the recent
leader at all.
happenings. Can we talk about
many
it?
youth leaders in UDA means no leader at all. Forget it.
That's not true,
We're
Eric.
done.
Eric.
Arnold Maliba, thank you. You'll come again. But,
No,
but
this
it's
is-
important we talk about
You know, you've
succession.
just rigged this interview.
No, you talked too much.
You've just
you
rigged
went,
this
you,
interview.
oh, do I don't know what. I don't know.
Eric,
I can't remember.
Eric,
I read
you-
about you read UDA.
Hii ni Anglo leasing unafanya, Eric. This is poa.
Oh, you. Anyway, 8 a.m. Thank you very much for joining
Thank you
us.
so much.
Arnold Maliba is a youth leader. He's a strategic advisor at UDA. 8 a.m. Good morning.
Spice